I think as well, one of the big things in the books, especially the early 70s books, is to kind of stress just how important that kind of the teenage market was to yourself. I mean, you were a teen yourself when you got into him, and that kind of teenage audience, that teenage support, especially the female teenage support, like, the Jackie Reader, the Mirabelle Reader. Well, I mean, these were the people who got his records into the top five. It wasn't just studious, chin-stroking student intellectuals. The same kids who were going out buying David Essex and Cassidy and Slade and everything else.
Yeah, you've mentioned previously there about the kind of the difficulty of negotiating the Bowie story in 1975, because the rest have been a gift, really. You've got him in 1970 just flailing about after Space Odyssey, and then you've got him coming together with The Man Who Sold the World, which is an incredible record but was completely overlooked. And then you've got Hunky Dory, and 2 weeks after he'd recorded Hunky Dory, he was recording Ziggy Stardust. So there's so much to go at. But with this one, he was locked away for a lot of the time, and then also, of course, he was in New Mexico for a lot of the time doing The Man Who Fell to Earth. So would you say this has been the most difficult book to put together so far?
Difficult, I think, because obviously 1975 is the height of his drug addiction. So if you're 1975, he's a very sick man. He's an addict, and obviously addiction, it's an illness, not a choice. And I think we're a lot wiser about it these days than obviously we were back then. But it doesn't change the fact that he was an addict, and addicts are very selfish individuals. So he's addicted to coke, he's addicted to sex, and he grabbed both whenever he could, and had no problem accessing either, obviously. But unbelievably, amidst all that, he still managed to make incredible art, specifically with Station to Station at the end of the year, which I don't know if he had to really lose his mind to make a record that great, but if he did, then what a piece of art. The fact that he still managed to kind of do that at the end of it. So 1975, there's a lot of him sitting around going off his head basically, and doing strange paintings and sculptures. So in a book like this, it's even more necessary to kind of like cut the camera away to something else for a bit, and then to go back to him and see, oh no, he's still going mad in LA readers, and then cutting away again. So I think it's probably the longest period as well in the 70s when he doesn't record anything, because he records Fame in the January, and he doesn't record anything then until Golden Years in September, and that's probably the longest period, I think, probably up until after Heroes, maybe between Heroes and Lodger, when he actually doesn't make an album or really do much. And obviously, because I'm dealing with him at his worst in terms of his behaviours and addictions, and some of the comments he's making about his famous kind of like, drug-addled madness comments about fascism and stuff. There are times when he's not, clearly not the most likable person. But I have to take as a find and write as honest an account of him as a find. And I think even though the reader might flinch a bit, I think the Bowie fan obviously knows that he's not going to be like this forever. And kind of, don't worry, readers, Berlins are coming, and better times are ahead.
Yeah, I'm sure Bowie said at one point in time that he kind of used different drugs to take himself to a different place creatively. Kind of almost like sacrificing his well-being, which is quite possibly the truth. So the next book, obviously, you're going to go to 1976, and I would imagine that's going to be a little bit more mischievous and joyous, because he'll be in Berlin with Iggy Pop, won't he?
He will be in Berlin with Iggy Pop, and also as well he tours as well. So it's always interesting when he tours, and obviously the Isola tour, and the way the books are written, each one takes me roughly about sort of 9 months, and it's pretty much half and half in terms of like research and writing. I kind of do all the research first, and then once I've gathered everything, then I kind of really know what I'm writing about, because I never really know when to start. So at the minute, I'm still in a kind of like slightly scratching my head, working out what I'm going to include phase. But obviously, Berlin's going to be a huge part of it. I'm really looking forward to that as well, because I think that whole Bowie growing a moustache, I'm really looking forward to describing that, for instance. So yeah.
Well, I was lucky enough to go to one of the Wembley shows, 15 years old, and got the coach down there. Wow. And that was the first time I saw Bowie. But one final question then, Simon. Simon Goddard, we are talking to, author of the Bowie books, Odyssey. Just an amazing series of books. Do you think that you could have written these books, or would have written these books, whilst David Bowie was still alive?
No, probably not. Probably not. I mean, I have to be honest, it's like, obviously, since he passed away, that he feels almost as bigger now as he's ever been, which in a way is great, because it's like, he's always around us and he's not gone. I mean, I hope the funny bits he'd have thought were funny. The other bits, I don't know. I mean, obviously, he wanted to protect his image. But having said that, there's nothing in the books that hasn't been sort of like said about him before in terms of what he's done. And I think the whole point is kind of like, obviously, they're a labour of love. the fact that they are different and they are a bit odd, as you said. I mean, the thing that really inspires me most about Bowie, like beyond his music, is just his artistic attitude, the kind of the consummate artist that he was, in terms of like his outlook to anything that he did in life. Refusal to do anything cliched and always be original and stuff. So that's always at the back of my head. I hope that even if he might, a few things he might raise an eyebrow or a telephone to his lawyer about, I'd like to think that he'd see that the Bowie Odyssey books are kind of like a tribute to the man who kind of made the 70s and invented the 80s, and that's why it's Bowie in the 70s and not Bowie in the 80s, because like there's no other artist in the 70s who's defined it and shaped it like him.
Well, absolutely. So many lives, mine included. So before you go, is there anybody else? You might have answered it there, but that, particularly within the 70s, is there anyone else interesting enough to warrant the same treatment?
10 books. Other people have asked me that, and I always think like flipping heck, it's like 10 books not enough. If I do finish these 10 books, that'll be like over 500,000 words. That'll be longer than Lord of the Rings. So wow. I mean, but no, I don't think no one else is that consistently interesting. You see, year on year is so different. So every year is always it's an adventure for me. It's a gift, really.
I tell you what, I'll take that as a no. Okay, Simon, delight to speak to you, mate. And as I say,
thanks, man.
I'm not just recommending this 1975 Bowie Odyssey book, I'm recommending them all. I've got them all thus far, and I'll lend them to people, and just very, very keen to get them out there, because I do think they're absolutely brilliant. They always give them me back, because I know where they live. But yeah, keep doing what you're doing, mate, and take care of yourself.
Thanks very much, Mark. Take care. Thank you, man.
Cheers, mate. Bye.